every single life matters.
Primary responsibility of government, first of all, which is security.
We bank mostly on intervention rather than prevention.
Democracy is a government where power resides with the people.
Hello and a very warm welcome to you. This is U.Gov, all about you, all about the government. On the show, we get to talk about government functions, government responsibilities, and we also look at the citizens' corresponding obligations to their society. Yes, you have a role to play. I have a role to play in the growth and development of my society. I am Itohan Olomu-Agbodo. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Catch all the moment every Monday night. All the best goals. All the tackles, match reviews from across the leagues. Watch our experts give total analysis on every game and get a closer look at all the stars from around the world of football. You ask where? We say watch Total Football every Monday night on Lovewell Plus.
You're welcome back if you just joined us. This is U.Gov, and this week on the show, we are going to take a look at something quite interesting and intriguing. Recently, we heard about the anti-sexual harassment bill being passed at the Senate. It has actually scaled through the second reading, and that bill came in response to some happenings in the society, especially in the University of Lagos and some other lecturers who were sexually harassing their students. And people have been commenting on this bill. A lot of people are for the bill, they are in support of the bill, but some others are against the bill. But want to find out what Nigerians generally are saying about this bill and if it should be passed into law.
Well, I think it's uncalled for, and it should warrant a penalty, either life imprisonment or even some jail times, because it's actually not what the students went there for. So I think it's actually uncalled for, and it warrants some punishment. And every bit of the bill implemented, I think it will go a long way to correct those malfunctions in the universities.
Sexual harassment is just a very little thing to tackle in Nigeria, which our government can do for us to know that it's not right. Sex is not force. Sex is by willing. It's by mindset, my own mindset, and our own mindset too.
For my own opinion or whatever, I think this problem comes directly from the government. Bad government is involved. In such case, like if you go to some universities now, you see some like lecturers dating students, maybe, and some of these students, they are even their own children, and they are the one teaching about such harassment in school, but they are involved. When it comes to every other things, they will say they don't know this and that. Me myself, I'm also a student. It happens in my own school, where I was in school also. Many lecturers in school, they do date girls from all corners, handout, buying of handouts, all those things. Some students, like mostly the females, they don't come to school, but they pass these exams through what? All these things is part of corruption. They give them exam questions by what? Means of sex. For my own issues, the problem comes from the government. The problem comes from the government. For me, I'm not happy as a citizen of this Nigeria. They're talking about bad government, this and that. We are the people involving ourselves, especially the lecturers themselves. And these are the people. Government should look onto it. And we also, as individuals, also, we need to be cautious of ourselves.
You're welcome back. Quite interesting. A lot of Nigerians are in support of the passage of that bill, but the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, they are against the passage of that bill. They're saying that bill is targeted at them, and they are calling for a stop and they are saying that bill should not be passed. Why are they saying the bill should not be passed? They feel that it would distract them from doing their jobs, and that a lot of these students involved in this act are claiming that they are victims. They actually are the ones soliciting for this act. Let's take a listen to what the ASU is saying.
I will start by posing some questions. Does ASU support sexual harassment? No. ASU does not support sexual harassment in any form. And we have made that clear. Everywhere and every time we had the opportunity to do so. We were here in 2016 and we spoke along the same line. But the other question now is, are there other problems in the universities that warrant being given immediate attention? I'm sure many of us will mention corruption. Maybe very soon we'll come back to say, let's have law on corruption that focuses on the university.
Quite interesting. ASU there talking about the anti-sexual harassment bill that has just scaled. It has scaled through second reading since October 2019, but it's coming back to the fore again because of ASU's comments. But now we have a legal practitioner who's going to lend his voice to this discussion, and he's going to talk about the pros and cons. Should this bill be passed? Why should the bill be passed? And also give us a background to the bill. And he is Prince Uzeme, a legal practitioner based in Nigeria. Take a listen.
The sexual harassment bill that is presently being considered by the Nigerian Senate has actually been on ground for some time, specifically from the term of the 8th Senate that was led by Dr. Abubakar Olusola Saraki as the then Senate President. The bill was introduced to the Senate by Senator Olomu-Agbodo, the current Deputy Senate President. But then he introduced it as just a senator in concurrence with about 75 other senators. The bill was passed by the then Senate, but when the bill was transmitted to the House of Representatives for their concurrence, they raised some objections, some observations on the bill that ensured that the bill failed at the level of the lower house. Basically, what they stated was about the restrictive and narrow scope of the bill. The bill, as it currently is targeted at sexual harassment in our nation's tertiary institutions. Those are institutions like educational institutions like the universities, like the polytechnics, and the College of Education. And the House of Rep raised the query that why is the bill so narrow in its scope that it is dealing only with tertiary institutions? What institutions? What about sexual harassment in other professional spaces like workplaces, office environments, religious centers, and all of that? And they recommended that the bill should widen its scope to include sexual harassment in all spheres of life and other professional workspaces. So based on that, the bill failed at the level of the House of Representatives, the lower house of assembly. And from 2016, when the bill failed, till 2019, the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, carried out a documentary led by a Nigerian journalist, Ms. Kiki Modi, about sexual harassment in our nation's universities. And the documentary indicted 2 lecturers of the University of Lagos and a lecturer from the University of Ghana. Based on the uproar and the furor created by the documentary, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Olomu-Agbodo, reintroduced this bill to the Senate, and it is currently being considered. One observation I want to make at this point is that the scope of the bill has still not been expanded. That means the bill is still targeted only at the tertiary institutions. But as at November 2019, the bill has passed second reading at the level of the Senate. It is now pending third reading and passage by the Senate before transmittal to the House of Representatives. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has stated its strong opposition to the passage of the bill. ASU's arguments is in multiple folds. One of the arguments is that the bill is simply duplicitous. That means that there are other laws currently in place that could adequately cater for sexual harassment. So therefore, this bill is not needed to be passed because of these other laws that are currently in place. Now, what other laws are currently in place with regard to sexual harassment in Nigeria? We have the Nigerian Criminal Code Act. We have the Penal Code. We have the Criminal Law of Lagos State. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill. We have the NAPTIP Bill, the National Agency for Prohibition in Trafficking in Persons Act Bill, law. So we do have a number of laws that are brought in sexual harassment, sexual violence, and what have you under its fold. But we do not have a law, a specialist law, that devotes all of its sections to dealing with this issue of sexual harassment. So that is, in essence, is what the Senator Olomu-Agbodo's bill is seeking to accomplish. We know that Section 224 of the Criminal Code Act deals with sexual violence, same as Section 257 of the Lagos State criminal law. But these sections, by themselves, it is my opinion that they did not adequately cover the field, like this bill is seeking to do. And the ASU, again, in a second objection, has stated that they were being unfairly targeted by the Nigerian Senate in trying to pass this bill. For me, I don't think that argument holds any water, because we should encourage the expansion of our statutory space and the encouragement for the passage of laws that will deal with issues in a better way than that currently is obtaining. So the argument of ASU that they were being targeted, I think it is childish and infantile. I think it is a defeatist argument, an argument where that is akin to the person that has been complaining of theft in his workspace. And someone else says, let us put a CCTV camera on this workspace to even find out what is going on. Then the same person that had been complaining all this while comes out to say that the CCTV camera is actually an invasion of his privacy and invasion of his right to private enjoyment of his workspace. This is akin to the argument that the ASU is bringing forth on them being unduly targeted and all these other arguments that they are bringing up. The ASU has also stated that this bill, in essence, will serve to erode the worth and the value attached to the certificates that they are bringing forth. Basically, they are saying that where you want to bring the university teachers, the tertiary institution teachers, under the probe, that whatever certificate that they now issue at the end of the day will be brought into question because the teachers are like they are perpetually on trial. So therefore, this bill is not needed. My opinion on this is that we know that the sexual violence, sexual harassment has been going on in our universities and in our tertiary institutions for decades, and nothing serious has been done about it by both ASU and by the university authorities. So for ASU to say now that where a law is now coming in, that the purpose of this law is to clean up, so to speak, its audience tables that has traumatized so many students over the decades that this law is simply targeted at them, I think that argument doesn't make any sense, or that the law will erode the value of the certificates that they are awarding. Right now, the value of the certificates are already eroded by these allegations of sexual harassment, grade for marks, and people failing courses or spilling their courses over simply because they refuse to submit to the various advances of a lecturer. So I think the current situation is what is devaluing their certificates. But the bill will only serve to add more value and to bolster the power of the certificates being given. So all in all, I think the arguments of ASU do not hold water.
That was Prince Uzeme there talking about the anti-sexual harassment bill, which has scaled through second reading at the Senate. The Ninth Senate is doing a great job in discussing some bills affecting citizens of this great country of Nigeria. But once we go on a quick break, we'll continue with that discussion when we return. You're welcome back. Well, if you just joined us, this is U.Gov, and this week we've been talking about the passage or non-passage of the anti-sexual harassment bill, which has scaled through second reading at the Ninth Senate. Nigerians are reacting, legal practitioners are reacting, and of course the ASU are also saying the bill should not be passed. But we have Prince Uzeme, who's been talking about the bill, giving us a background, and now he's going to be answering questions as to what the bill actually contains. Does it contain enough protection for victims? And does it have recommendations? Could the bill be better? Take a listen.
The bill, as it is currently, actually accords a lot of protection to potential victims of sexual harassment in the Nigerian university space. But I want to state here that the first thing that I expected this bill to do is to distinguish and clearly define sexual harassment vis-a-vis sexual violence, sexual assault, rape, and all other subsets of sexual harassment and sexual violence. So, but the bill has not done that. That is number one. The number two thing is that the bill has actually accorded victims the opportunity to lay a complaint to either the police station or to the High Court. And on another level, as an internal grievance remedial process in the university, the bill is seeking to establish what it is calling the Sexual Harassment Prohibition Committee that will be made up of 7 persons from the university space and headed by a senior lecturer. I understand that this 7-member committee would also include 2 students. But I have a problem where the bill stated that a quorum of that committee will be formed by 5 members out of the 7. What this means, in essence, what this means in practice is that if the 5 other members of the committee that are made up of the university lecturers decide to go hold a meeting without the knowledge or without the contribution of the 2 members who are students, the bill is saying that whatever decisions that they reach would be valid decisions simply because they considered a quorum. The composition of the Sexual Offences Prohibition Committee is stated to be 7 members, out of which the bill is stating that 5 members of this committee would constitute a quorum for the committee. Now, where we have 7 members and 2 of these members are students, 5 lecturers, then the bill comes around to say that 5 members of this committee would constitute a quorum. I think that it is a lacuna that could be abused by unscrupulous persons. Imagine a situation where the 5 members of the committee that can form a quorum happen to be the 5 lecturers that are in the committee, and they go hold a secret meeting or a meeting without the knowledge or the contribution of the 2 student members. What this means is that the committee would then not have a balanced decision emanating from it at the end of the day, because it is possible that these 5 lecturers that have formed the legal quorum would take decisions that would be inimical or that would affect the rights of the students without the students participating in the work of the committee. All of this is contained in sections 15, 16, and 17 of the proposed bill as it is. So I think that even though the Sexual Harassment Prohibitions Committee offers some support to students, I think they should look into the issue of this quorum vis-a-vis the composition of the personnel that will form a quorum. So I think the bill should propose something, there should be a statement that says that even though there will be 5 members of the committee will form a quorum, these 5 members must at every point include at least 1 student member. That should be the valid quorum that the bill should recognize. I support 100% the bill as it is, but it is my opinion that the bill could be better. There are some provisions in that bill that will lead to legal absurdity at the end of the day. For example, the only defense that is stated in that bill is that where the lecturer and the student are shown to be married, that is beautiful. For example, if Mr. So-and-so is teaching a class where his wife is also a student, nobody should on that basis say that, oh, there has been sexual harassment visited on that student by the lecturer, that if they are married, then they are married. That is beautiful. So my recommendations on this bill is that before it is passed, I believe that the drafters should look at it again. They shouldn't come up with a bill that is only Nigerian in nature. I think that for a bill like this, we can actually have a watershed moment in terms of the fight against sexual harassment and sexual violence. I think the bill, we should consider the position or the laws of other countries and seek to bring this bill to a standard level where we could say that it aligns with global best practices out there. So let us look at other countries like the United States, like Britain, Australia, and other climes to see how they've dealt or treated this issue of sexual harassment. Let us not write a bill or pass a bill that within a year of its passage, it will be clear to all users that the bill has glaring discrepancies and lacunas that may not be cured by the courts. So let us come up with a bill that is airtight and has provisions that will bring it to a level that even other African countries would be able to adopt the provisions of the Nigerian sexual violence and sexual harassment law. So this is my recommendation. The bill as it is, I think it is still too narrow in scope. The definitions are not proper. There's no distinguishing. There's no distinguishing between sexual violence, sexual harassment, rape, sexual assault, and all of that. All this should be clearly stated, and let us know the scope of this bill. Where is this bill reaching? What are the boundaries of this bill? All these things should be clearly stated. This, in addition to the things I've already stated concerning the quorum. The composition of the quorum for the Sexual Violence Prohibitions Committee and all of that. This will be my recommendations for this bill. Let us come up with a bill that will stand up that 20 years later, we can still refer to the provisions of the bill as a bill that has indeed saved the Nigerian workspace and reduced or minimized or completely eradicated the prevalence of sexual harassment in our institutions vis-a-vis the larger workspace.
Well, the bill should actually be passed, but it should be expanded upon, because sexual harassment doesn't just happen in academic institutions. It doesn't just happen in tertiary institutions. It also happens in secondary schools, and it happens in workplaces and other places like that. So the bill should actually be expanded to accommodate these other areas, these other sectors. We don't want to have a bill that is so narrow in scope. So let the bill be reworked and let it be expanded upon. But we have some more tidbits for you. Well, that's much we can take this week on U.gov. We had a very interesting discussion on the anti-sexual harassment bill, which has scaled through second reading at the Ninth Senate. And Nigerians are saying the bill should be passed, while other parties are saying no, the bill should not be passed. And of course, the legal practitioner we had on the show said the bill should be expanded upon so that it would not be narrow in scope. We'd like you to join our conversation by using our hashtag #YouGov, #LoverPlus, and you can also download our app so that you can watch us on the go. Our app is Lover Plus, and we'd like you to visit our website on www.loverplus.tv. You can send comments to info@loverplus.org and to the numbers showing on your screen now. I am Olomu-Agbodo. God bless Nigeria.